So one of the things I hear from women who are getting divorced who are divorced is that there's a lot of fear around buying a new home. Now, there's also a lot of fear around refinancing and staying in your home and owning your home by yourself for the first time. But there are a lot of women getting divorced who have never had a home by themselves. The only home they've ever owned is with their soon-to-be ex. Or even maybe they didn't even have a home with their ex, like maybe you rented and now you want to buy a home. So I would say if I look back on my first home buying experience, it is a combination of feeling really excited and really cool and independent. And then there's a part that says, oh my gosh, can I really do this? I'm not sure. I'm scared. What if I can't pay the mortgage? So there's all these things going on. And I have a great guest to talk about this with because she has this niche in helping first-time home buyers. And her name is Stacy Yesner. Stacy is a real estate agent for Compass in Chicago. Hi, Stacy.
Hi there, how are you?
Good. Welcome to the podcast. This is the first time you've been on.
Yes, it is. And I'm used to being
Nice.
on the other side.
Yes. So Stacy was just saying she hosts an Instagram live every week. Tell my listeners how they can find that.
So they can follow me or join in. It's my handle is Stacy Yesner, my name, and it's every Wednesday at 2 o'clock Central Time. And I talk to realtors and other professionals about life and real estate.
Awesome. And Stacy's website, it's so easy to remember, is stacysellschicago.com, STACI. Okay. So Stacy, I was telling her before this podcast, I feel like every time we have a conversation about real estate, Stacy brings up the first time buyer. Like you really have a niche in this market. I want to tell my listeners though, you've been a real estate agent for 9 years, and before that, you were a social worker. So you really are like a therapist too. And a lot of this home buying stuff for first time buyers is therapy too.
It is. I mean, I think the whole thing is people get really overwhelmed and it's scary. I mean, when I was a single woman buying my first place, and I look back on that experience, and I used a friend who was a realtor, and looking back on it now, I didn't get the guidance I wish I would have.
Like what?
She didn't listen to what I wanted. She looked at my age and who I was and thought that I should be in specific areas, not listening to what I wanted or what I needed. And so,
Okay, meaning a different area in Chicago, like a different neighborhood.
yes,
And then also maybe you wanted to be in like a house and she thought you would be better in a high rise or something.
exactly.
Hmm.
Which is not really, it's not, we're not supposed to steer
Hmm.
clients because I mean, that's not legal or ethical. We can make suggestions. We can say, based on your budget, you can't afford to be in those particular areas.
Or you
And
can get, how about look what you can get for the same price in this area and this area. And I want to tell my listeners this. I remember I was looking for a house. I was really young. I was looking for like a condo or something. And I remember making an offer. I was just about to make an offer on a place. And my friend had a friend who was a real estate agent. And she's like, just wait one day I'm going to show you what you could get for that same price because she thought it was like really high, but didn't tell me that. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to make an offer on this. I didn't buy any of the other places, but it was like an education.
exactly. And I knew I could get more in the areas I wanted to look than what she was showing me. But because I was single, I was Jewish, I was, you know, in my mid 30s, I should live in these areas as opposed to areas that were more like up and coming and not as safe for all intents and purposes.
Okay, but I do kind of appreciate that she was looking out for you, but maybe she could have said it like, this is what I think, but you have to do what you want.
Correct. And I got my way, but but as a realtor, we're supposed to listen to our clients, and it would have been one thing if my budget didn't allow it. That's different because
Mhm.
I've definitely made suggestions based on people's budget and what they're wanting.
hmm But Stacy, I have to say, I think a lot of women who are divorced or newly divorced want direction. And what I want to tell my listeners is Stacy really can give you direction because you know all the neighborhoods, the school districts, the suburbs, the city, right? I mean, I think
Oh yeah.
you were single and very independent for a long time. Now, when you work with these divorced women who have never had a place by themselves and don't really know, they need more guidance.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's very different when you're single and divorced than when you have kids and you're divorced.
That's
Um,
different too.
right. Because, like I had one client who wanted to be in the same school district that her kids were in. She didn't want to move them because of all the changes. So I was being very proactive. I wrote letters to try and find properties because there was very little inventory. So I was being proactive to try and find her a place. And I worked very closely with the lender because her budget was so low.
Okay, now let's get into what specifically are the fears of first-time home buyers who are newly divorced? Mortgage.
Mortgage, because sometimes they're, depending on their situation, sometimes they're new to the workforce if they've been the stay-at-home mom.
hmm
So they may not have the down payment, or so they may be relying on, waiting for the divorce to finalize to
hmm
see how much they're going to get from selling their home or from the settlement from the divorce. So they don't even know exactly what they're going to be able to do. Sometimes they're still rebuilding credit because of situations that have happened in the divorce. So there's all of these things that can impact their ability to buy.
Okay, now I want to stop you there because I want to tell my listeners how important this is. So Stacy's saying that these women come to her, a lot of them, and they don't know what they're going to get. Well, there's a way to know or at least be in the ballpark before you are divorced. So let's say you're going through a divorce and you can only estimate what you're going to get. But you can actually talk to a mortgage lender way ahead of time before you even start looking for homes to find out exactly what you can afford or just the price range. And your mortgage lender, if they're a certified divorce lending professional, can talk to your divorce attorney, your financial advisor. My point is, let your divorce professionals talk to each other so
Oh,
that
right.
you can go to Stacy and say, I'm looking for a home, and I was told I should look in the four to $500,000 range or whatever it is. Because you know now because your financial advisor knows what you and your ex have, your certified lending professional. Um, and so all these professionals are helping you. You don't have to guess and you don't have to wait until you're officially divorced. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And the one thing is I don't care what you're approved at. I want to know what you feel comfortable paying.
Very good point. And tell me what the difference is.
You could be approved for $500,000, but based on what you're making and what you're going to be getting for alimony and child support and all of that, you may not be comfortable making that mortgage payment on a $500,000 house. You may only be comfortable making that mortgage payment on a $350,000 house. That's a huge difference.
And also a 500,000, maybe you want the $500,000 house, but then you're never going to have any money to take vacations or do anything fun because you have no spending money.
Correct.
Another reason to work with a financial advisor during your divorce so that you can play out these scenarios and so that your financial advisor can say to you, if you get the $500,000 a month, $500,000 home and you have this mortgage, here's your spending money after all these other expenses and after your income. If you get the
Right.
350, here it is. And then you can say to yourself, do I want to save? Do I want a vacation? And so do I want to spend more money on my kids?
Right.
Maybe college is coming up. So you need professionals so that by the time you get to Stacy, she can make it really easy because you know what price range you're in. Am I right?
Absolutely. Many of my first-time home buyers will tell me what they're comfortable spending. And a lot of times we start looking at those price points. And if we're not finding what they're looking for, they may increase their budget a little bit, but I never know what they're truly approved for. And that's okay. I don't need to know what that top dollar amount is. I want to know what they're comfortable paying for.
You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And I'm here today with Stacy Yesner, real estate agent for Compass in Chicago. And we are talking first-time home buyer issues. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to get more into the emotional roller coaster you might be feeling. And then, um, wait, let's edit that out. Um, the emotional roller coaster you might be feeling, and then tips on finding the perfect place for you. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Divorce Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. My guest today is Stacy Yesner, real estate agent of 9 years, social worker before becoming a real estate agent, and she works for Compass in Chicago. And Stacy has this little niche for first-time home buyers, whether you are newly divorced or you've never been married, and or maybe you're a widow or widower. And Stacy, let's get into. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Your last comment before the break is that you say that you often work with people who start off in one price range. Like, and I'm saying this really hit a nerve because that's what happened to me when I was buying my home a few years ago. Like I started looking in my price range and I was like, well, I don't want to live in any of these. So I upped it like 100,000 and it was like a I was like, wow. I mean, like, I couldn't believe there was one good place after another. And at the time, interest rates were so low that it didn't even matter. I mean, it was like ridiculous. And so I guess my point is interest rates are not low right now, unfortunately.
And I'm not saying to bump it up that much, but
Right.
sometimes, and it depends on where you're looking too. And I
Mhm.
think that's the biggest difference. Like I had clients looking in Naperville and they bumped it up like $50,000 because they didn't necessarily want to redo the kitchen and redo the bathrooms. So I think it also depends on, as a first-time home buyer, are you prepared and to do rehabbing? If you're looking at $350,000 houses in certain suburbs, that could be a gut rehab. In certain suburbs at $350,000, it could be move-in ready. So
Right.
sometimes it really depends on where you're looking and what the price point is. So
Mhm.
I'm not saying you have to bump it up $100,000. Sometimes I'm saying it's like another $25,000. You
Could
know,
make a big difference.
it can make a huge difference. But again, I'm not going to I'm never going to ask you to spend more than you are comfortable spending, even if you can spend it. And there's some programs for first-time home buyers. Um, and which if you've owned a home before with your ex or soon to be ex, you may not qualify for, but there's also some grants out there that help with closing costs and um, are available to buyers if they make under a certain amount.
Mm-hmm.
So there's ways to help.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really good to know. I want to get into the emotional roller coaster. So, what are these women who come to you and they've never owned a home? Do you agree with what I said at the beginning of the podcast? It's like they're really excited on one hand, but on the other hand, they're kind of like sad, like, oh, I'm divorced now. It's just me. I'm single. And they're also really scared. Is it all over the place?
I mean, I think it really depends on the situation, on if they are where they are in their life, if they have kids, and if they don't have kids. You know, I had one who had two young kids, and just trying to find a place was overwhelming. She just like and it took us over a year to find a place. And she was just getting so deflated.
Yeah.
Uh,
Feeling
and
almost like hopeless.
right.
And then it
And
gets so overwhelming. Have you ever, and I'm asking my listeners this, think about like when you feel really overwhelmed, all you want to do is like put it all down and say, forget it. I don't want to deal with this and walk away.
and I think it was probably very similar to how she felt when she was going through her divorce.
Hmm.
And then I have one client right now that I'm working with that she wants to be in a certain area, but she can't move to one suburb because that's where her ex lives.
Yeah.
But she needs to stay close because of her mother, who's elderly. So she's very tied in to where she needs to be,
Yeah.
which
Yeah. But okay. So in here, in your article that you wrote for Divorce Girl
yeah.
Smiling, some things to think about are you want to make sure whatever you pick in a house that you feel safe,
Hmm.
that you feel there's a community there for you, that you're not alone and isolated, right? And
Hmm.
then maybe a little room to grow. And you wrote, that's what I was after when you bought your first place. Like safety and community, I would say, for somebody who's divorced are probably the two most important things.
So I think a lot of it depends on where, again, where you are in your life, right? So I know that some people, when their kids are gone and if they're changing, they move from the suburbs to the city because there's more opportunity for community. You live in a high rise, there's activities, you're able to walk to the lake or walk to restaurants and whatever. So yes, there's more opportunity for that. As we get older, right, there's more like, and I just had a birthday yesterday, so I can say as we get older, right?
Know that.
Yeah.
Happy
So
birthday.
thank you. But we're um so I'm starting to think about, the people that are, you know, 55 and older, like those types of communities. There's been a lot more talk about that. And just the types of environment that can create for people that are more isolated.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so so yeah, it is so important.
Okay, now you write in the article, and I don't know if this is true, but I agree with you that there's a certain feeling you're going to get when you walk into a home and you're going to go, this is the one. Kind of like when you meet a guy. Like you just know.
Absolutely. And I see it
So you
every
say
time with my
your
buyer.
advice to what?
I see it every time with my buyers.
So your advice to people is don't settle. Don't say, look, I've been looking for so long. I just don't want to settle because there's always rent. You can always rent, and then you're
Correct.
never in a hurry.
Correct. No, and it's so I had here's a funny story. I had one buyer and he just wanted to buy a house because he was getting married and he wanted to buy a house. And we would walk in and I would find something significantly wrong with the house because he didn't have a huge budget, but he wanted to buy something for him and his bride to be. And I kept finding like there was mold, there was water damage. And he finally said to me, "Do you not want me to buy something?" I'm like, "No, I want you to buy the right thing." And then they walked into the right house for them. And like his eyes lit up and her eyes lit off. And we closed on the
And you know
house.
what I love about you, Stacy, is because that was just taking more of your time. So it's not in your best interest to do that technically, but it is in your best interest because it's your reputation. And if that's how you are with people, that's wonderful.
Mhm.
I mean, I had a real estate agent who had a similar thing. Like she banged on this wall. We went in this house and she's like, "Are these walls made of paper?" And because I was like, "Oh my God, this is perfect. I want to live here." And she's like banged on the door and she's like, is this made of paper? Because that's what it feels like to me. And I always appreciated that. Because then when I found my house, it was like, I go, "Well, bang on the door." And she's like, "Sounds pretty good to me." you know.
And I've taught clients to look up at the ceilings to check to see if there's water.
hmm
I
There's
mean,
because you can see the seams if there have been floods and things.
and if the roof needs to be replaced and where the age of the hot water heater is and those kinds of things, just so they can know how much they're going to have to be spending on places.
All right, I want to end this on a really good note. So tell me two things. The biggest piece of advice you can give a first-time home buyer, and then what to expect the day you close.
So the biggest advice would be to have a good team of people. So having a lender and a real estate attorney and a real estate broker that you trust that all work together that will get you from start to finish, especially with the changes that have happened recently.
Okay,
With
now Stacy, can you provide when people work with you, do you give them these people if they want to work with their like people that you trust?
I have names of people. Yes, absolutely. I have names of people that I've worked with for years that I trust and I know will get them through because being when I'm on the other side of the table, it is really difficult sometimes when you have people that aren't communicative. And
Mhm.
my real estate attorneys, I can call at any time of day or night and get questions answered, and so can my clients and they're amazing. The other and the lenders as well. And I know the lenders that you have on your list are also excellent and are available to any buyers at any time and work with anyone else in their throughout their divorce.
Stacy's talking about on the Divorce Girl Smiling Trusted Professionals page. There are mortgage lenders on there who can help you. Okay,
Yes.
I don't have any real estate attorneys though, but I do know some that are good.
Yeah. So we can always connect you with those. And
Okay,
then
and then tell me about when people close.
mhm,
What are they thinking? What's their reaction?
um I think some of it is they're overwhelmed just because now they have their mortgage to pay. But they're also very excited.
Yeah, I
But
would have
then you
left
have
that whole first part out. I'm thinking you're going to say that they're like, "Oh my God, this is
well, but I think
great."
it's both, right? Because sometimes it's like overwhelmed. I've had a few different reactions. Like now we have to furnish the place. Um, but we're very excited, like just and I think some of it also depends on where they are emotionally in with their lives.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, if this was a divorce that you wanted and you bought your own home and you've wanted this divorce for 20 years and now you're finally independent and free of your toxic marriage and you have this cute little place for yourself, you're going to be over the moon. But
Right.
if your husband left you and this was just something that had to happen and he's already getting remarried, you might feel like, oh my gosh, I feel so alone.
Right.
But Stacey, you've probably seen all of those stories.
Right. And I also make sure that they, like during the inspection, they learn where everything is, like how the furnace works and where the electrical panel is and where the water shutoff is. And my inspectors really educate them because a
So,
lot,
so almost like so they have a to-do list. Like when you're a first-time homeowner, you don't know that you have to get your heating and air conditioning serviced twice a year. I never knew that. I was like, wait, what? What do you do? And there's like a to-do list. It's not a long to-do list,
no.
but it's a to-do list.
And I have a great book that I give them on how and like how your house works
I love
because
that.
you don't know.
Mhm. But
My
it is
mom
very
didn't know.
simple. Like, I don't want people to be intimidated because once you get the hang of home ownership, it's the best. You never have to worry that your lease is going to be up or that they're going to raise the rent or you're going to have to move or whatever.
No, no, it is the best, but I think it also depends on emotionally where you were before the process and how
Right,
you and when you get the keys, how you're feeling.
right, right. And I think one emotion that is universal is that you're very relieved because now it's all this whole thing of the inspection and the looking for the place and the mortgage, it's all done. So you have the key in your hand and that whole thing is done. And now, like, there's a sense of independence and pride and excitement. So I want to urge my listeners, if you're scared, try to view this as like a really good thing and a really exciting new chapter of your life. I'll give you the last word, Stacy.
And it's all yours.
That really was the one word. It was three words. Okay. Thank you, Stacy, so much. I'm so glad we had this conversation, and I hope we inspired a lot of people on first-time home buying. So, to my listeners, if you liked what you heard and you want to consult with Stacy or work with her, she can be found at stacysellschicago.com or in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girls Smiling. So if you want to find Stacy and other trusted, vetted, divorced girl smiling professionals, or listen to more podcasts, read articles, download my mobile app, or sign up for my free consult, come see me at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you real soon.